There's a force that moves the earth below and sky above. It's burning with ambition. Strive to realize the missions of us all.
Per, thanks for making the time and talking to us here on Into the Pit. You're at home at the moment. I'm based about an hour from Hanover in Germany. And I'm very excited to be talking to you today, especially because, well, you recently released Singularity Phase 2 upon the world. And I must say, I've had quite a bit of time now to listen to the album. It's phenomenal, I have to say. And,
thank you.
It's really, it's great. And you guys, obviously, you took a long time. And now it has to be said, there was Corona. There was so much happening to come with a follow-up now.
Indeed, that's been the most asked question during this interview season. I'm just at the end of, So it's kind of boggles my mind that it's been 9 years since that last album. But in a way, I mean, there are things about it taking so long that for me, where I finally ended up. Like with myself in my personal life and in my career and in the bands, like in what we do, it feels like in a way it's been for the best. Yes. Because back in 2016 when we wrote and recorded most of the album, I was already kind of worn out and I felt like doing something else and I had the idea that maybe SCAR SYMMETRY would be a studio-only project going forward, because touring took such a toll on me because of all the stress and because we were never like a big band, and we were not a small underground band either, but we were at that place where we get some money for the shows, but it's not really it was tough to tour, and sometimes we lost money, and it was just it was a tricky situation, and I was the one who was always responsible for like things have the wheels rolling in all the aspects
and all that.
So I was really feeling of doing something else, and luckily enough, the opportunities was presented to me, and I was touring and recording with Nocturnal Rites, and with Meshuggah. I was touring with them for a good few years. Yes, I got to do the other things, and I got to see how other bands operated and how they did things. Which was really educational and inspirational for me. So when we sort of decided to bring back SCAR SYMMETRY like full speed forward, I had all this experience that I could bring with me and create a new situation, a new setup for how we all operate as a band and business-wise. All of these things that suddenly, after all these years, they came together for me, and I got the passion back, because I felt like during these years I was kind of falling in and out of love with the music and with the band and with myself or something. So coming back now, we have like the vibe in the band is different. It feels like, even though we were not doing too much for all these years, we were doing shows every now and then, right? But we were pretty inactive, and I was worried that maybe people wouldn't care anymore, even though
Oh,
I
that's
mean, I saw that people kept asking for phase two on our social medias. They kept punishing us with that question, which is
no stress.
is very fair, because I also promised the album at some point. So I was like, surely it will be released in 18 or 2019. And then as we know, it wasn't released, and I had to eat my words. But yeah, I'm incredibly happy that the album came out now, and it almost seems like the interest is at an like all-time high.
I can imagine, but it's sometimes good to have that break and get some distance, and it's a little bit cathartic as well. And then you find, okay, this is, after a while you go full circle, and you sort of reconfirm this is definitely what I want to do, and if everything feels right, then you come out with a better end result, I guess, as well.
Yeah, it's like we had that first part of our career when we did things a certain way, and then we took a little bit of a break and a little time away from each other. I live close to the railroad.
Yeah, it's fun.
If you hear something,
No
yeah.
worries.
I'm so used to it. I actually quite like it. It makes me feel connected to the world.
Yeah.
Because the train station is really near. It's just a few minutes walk. So whenever I want to go somewhere,
That's
really
ideal.
convenient. Yes, but yeah. So to have that, like the what do you call it, when distance makes the heart,
Grow fonder, yeah.
Yes.
No, that's
Vad sa du? Hämtar du Henry? 1:45. Topp, hej. Sorry.
no problem.
The like the perks of working from your home, and your wife working from home, and yeah. So she came and said she was gonna go out for some errands. So sorry, where were we?
I'm gonna hit you with the next question. I'm not gonna focus too much on your guitar playing. I think we all know you really are a phenomenal player, but I think a lot of channels cover that already. I've seen your Coffee with Ola, which was a very cool episode, but I'd like to focus a little bit more on yeah. Well, I mean, SCAR Symmetry is such a unique band, I think. I mean, obviously there's a lot of melodic death metal influence kind of music out there, bordering on prog metal. But nevertheless, I find you guys really have a unique sound, and with the trade-off vocals, the light and dark, and the really catchy melodies and stuff. What influenced you to sort of go in this direction? Were there any key players, any key bands where you said, hey, we're going to take a bit of that, we're going to take a bit of that?
That's a really good question. I had to collect myself a little bit.
Yeah, no worries. Because I do hear, I mean, there's a, I hope you don't take offense, but there's a, obviously in the choruses, there's a strong pop, but pop in a good way.
Sure,
element
yeah.
to it.
Yeah, I mean, I like my sort of formative years as a guitar player was in the 80s. I started playing at the ripe age of 10 in 1984. So, and that was around the time when I started listening to metal music. I started raiding my older brother's record collection and listen to what he had in there. And then as my teens passed by, I started listening to other things, and I got into all the shred guitar players of that era. I started listening to jazz fusion and proggier stuff and pop stuff. I mean, I always, as a kid, you hear the music that's been played back then on MTV and on radio and the charts. So I was always aware of that, and every now and then I like the song, and some of the best pop music of that era is sort of ingrained in myself and in all of us from that generation. But like I was never afraid of uh, like looking at other musical genres to get my musical sustenance. Uh, and because some people might be like they are a metalhead and they don't want to like admit that they like something poppy and cheesy, because you need to be cool, you need to listen
Yeah.
to the right kind
Yeah.
of metal that's popular at the moment. But I never cared much for that. And like in the early 90s there were bands that came along that started blurring some of these lines, like uh, Fear Factory, maybe, like when they
Yeah.
came and they oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, when they came out and they had these really cool some riffs that were super groovy, like Scapegoat, do. And then they had these super tight kick drums that played in super tight unison with the guitars and bass, uh, and then they had some clean vocals, and I just loved that. And then Meshuggah came along and they played their flavor of metal with all the crazy rhythms, and then suddenly you got a clean break with some jazzy guitars and stuff. It's about Wait. To talk about the 90s when bands started mixing together things. And
Yes.
yeah, with Meshuggah they blended the, because also at that time I had started listening to death metal, and I liked the kind of death metal that was doing this, like that was having like fusion like solos and stuff. And Meshuggah did it to an extent that no one else did at the time.
Yes.
And I just loved it. And what Cynic did on the Focus
Oh, of
album.
course. Yes.
Yeah, was so yeah, so like early on I really liked the blending of styles. And when we started SCAR Symmetry, I mean, we were a bunch of people who got together. We didn't really know each other except for the drummer and I, who had been playing for a long time. But we sort of met up and formed a band, and we had the idea to do melodic death metal, that like we were going to mix like death metal with melodies and have kind of like pop like song structures. And and the first album is that we did is is kind of safe. We played it safe, and
Mhm.
I didn't really blend too many elements together. So it's for me it's been something that's been evolving.
Yeah. Yeah. But you guys blew me away when a friend of mine actually sent me a link years back, and I think the entry album was Dark Matter Dimensions, and
Yeah.
you having mentioned Fear Factory and bands like that, and Meshuggah doing it with the, I mean, Meshuggah don't have the melodic vocals, but they do it with the fusiony guitars and stuff. But what blew my mind was is that you took it another level. You brought in that pop sensibility with the choruses that was so catchy, and often
Mhm.
they would even grow on you even more. You know, the first listen would be like whoa, and then it would be so sing along, but then not losing the brutality and the technicality. That's really what made it unique for me.
Oh, cool. I think that something that, like, what you try to do, I think this might be something that every songwriter, musician does, is that you have all these things that you love, all these bands and musicians and artists, all these sounds and that you love and that you listen to and that is influencing you. But then when you reach sort of artistic maturity, whenever that may be, some people seem to know what they want to do really early. Like the Meshuggah guys, they got their like style sorted out pretty early. They did that
Pretty good,
first
yeah.
Contradictions Collapse album, which doesn't really sound like Meshuggah. It sounds like a young version of them when they hadn't reached that level of maturity yet. They were still, you know, searching for what they was all about. And then at the non EP going forward, they really like, with that EP, they just like, this is what we're gonna do,
Bang.
and they've been doing like pretty much that thing, but more of it and gone in the different direction. But that was like, this is the statement. This is where what we are. And some people get that kind of maturity early on, and some get it later on. I think it took me. I wasn't like still in my teens when I got mine, but and of course it's a growing process as well. But it's like when all these influences and all these things, when they sort of become a part of you, and then you start looking like with all these things you like, you find that there are like gaps. Like I love these things, but I would love that thing if there was such a thing.
Yes.
But to the best of your knowledge, there isn't such a thing like that. And I don't think the components of our music is very unique, in of themselves. But it's I don't think I've heard any other band that like occupies that tiny little space that we occupy.
Yeah, I think it's how you bring it together that really makes it unique in my
Yeah,
sense.
so I mean, I'm striving to fill that little void, and which is like the most fulfilling thing to do, because if I would try to do what some other successful band does. I mean, when we started out, people were comparing us a lot to Soilwork,
Yes.
and actually Fear Factory as well on our first album. I can't hear that at all, actually, to be honest. But I mean, people, they went for the closest references they had, of course. But if I would have tried to model my songwriting after a successful band like Soilwork, for example, who I love a lot of what they have done. They have written so many amazing songs, and so yeah. But to go for that and try to be like, we could be just as successful, or write those kinds of songs, and maybe try to do it even better, set the high goal.
Yeah.
But that seems like unfulfilling if you're going for something that someone else already did really, really well.
For sure. I mean, it's you want to push through your own artistic vision, really, and
Yeah,
bring that to fruition.
you have to wear your own shoes.
Absolutely, and walk them.
Yes.
Is there a quick question, whilst we're not delving too deep into guitar playing, but is there someone who you would say you look up to, that's the one player where you think he's my man, that's the guy, or she?
Yeah, for sure. Alan Holdsworth
Oh, wow.
is my favorite guitar player, and one of my absolute favorite musicians of all time.
Great. That's a name you don't hear that much.
Well, in my world, you do.
Oh, okay. I mean,
Yeah.
just from checking interviews and reading interviews, it's obviously always the usual suspects, from Satriani to Vai to, that kind of stuff, or even the guy from Yes, or
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and some of those players, Steve Vai and Yngwie Malmsteen, like I went through my phases listening to them a lot, and many more. Marty Friedman, what he did in his time with Megadeth,
yeah,
that's for me, that's like the blueprint on how to do really amazing solos in like thrash and death metal in that kind of setting.
he was phenomenal in that
Yes,
context. Yes.
like, yeah, and how his solos were structured, and how he always managed to sneak in these little ear twisters,
Yeah.
something that made you go like, whoa, shit, you're feeling like you're about to fall over or something, because he goes so way out on something.
I personally I always like players that play for the song, and not just to sort of show skill X to A to Z,
Yeah, I agree. But also that's so subjective, right? Like
I guess so.
who decides what's best for the song, right?
Yes, okay, but you could argue that someone like Eddie Van Halen really always, played for the song, and obviously there's some people that play a song to death. It's like
Yeah.
it's just too much.
No, I mean I totally get what you mean, and I agree. Largely, I agree. And it's like some players they just know what good notes to reach for,
Yes.
and they manage to get the listener with them when they climb the mountain, you know.
Exactly.
And I, but I also really like it when, like as a songwriter, when guitar solos, sometimes you just want the guitar solo to be like the chorus but played on the guitar or something, you know,
Exactly.
be very close to it. But sometimes it's really neat if the solo can be almost like a little song of its own within the song, and it can go in a completely different direction, and let you go to a totally different place for a bit before you return to
I think
the song. So
an example you
yeah.
did. Don't ask me which song now, but it's. I need to think. I think it's of Dark Matter Dimensions, but
No, it's the latest, well, the second to latest album now.
it's the
It's from
Singularity one.
Limits to Infinity.
Limits to Infinity, a great song. But I thought immediately of Neil Sean from Journey.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It
Oh
was kind of
yeah, exactly.
that really simple, but yeah, great
And
stuff.
the first part of the solo has that almost like Meshuggah-esque.
Yes,
It has that super heavy, complex thing.
staccato, yeah.
Yeah, and then it goes into that part where it's like it opens up and it's like really nice, mom and dad friendly chords, and so on.
I think what you guys always manage to do, at least for me personally, is manage to give that chorus. Every time it catches me, I go, okay, now this is probably where it will end. This is where it will drop, because it's kind of what you expect. But then it has a little bit of a variation at the end. It's always, and like Limits to Infinity is a perfect example. I think it's one of my favorite tracks. But there's always the chorus melody always has that little hook extra for me. And which leads me to my next question: is it actually, do you personally write just riff orientated and basic structure, or do you actually already hear the vocals in your head?
I guess most of the time, sometimes, I mean, I have a pretty strong idea of what the vocals are going to be like. But I think like what I mostly do is I write the instrumentals first, and I can start with a drum beat or guitar riff, or I play something nice on the keyboards, or so I can have something like that. And then as I'm writing the song, I'm trying to set myself up for success with the vocal parts, and same with the guitar leads. I try to construct the riffs and the sort of chord progressions that I'm gonna have clean vocals on. I try to set them up so that I know that it'll be easy to make nice vocal melodies. And sometimes I can use some chord in the chord progression that maybe doesn't come from the key I'm in. I'm something that sticks out, and I already know that this chord that is going to be like, whoa, what's this? I know that this chord it has a common note with the other chords, So then I know if like, yeah, so Lars can be singing, he can sing in the high A, and then I know that like the F, it can turn to F sharp minor, and he can still be on that same note and be like powerful and aggressive, and the entire vibe is going to change because of that chord, and then that's going to be really exciting to listen to. And same thing with the solos. I try to write the backing parts to set me up for to be able to do some cool stuff.
So you basically have a sort of foundation already. Yeah. Oh,
pretty much, yes.
And look, and another thing that's now leads me to my next one is just focusing on these last 2 albums now, and you're obviously going to bring out a third one apparently. The lyrical content and the ideas, that's also amazing. I mean, it's where does it stem from? Are you science fiction freaks? How does that? Do you sit together sort of...
No, not really. I mean, our drummer Henrik, he's written all of the lyrics from the very start of the band, and him and I, we had bands together like from our teens forward. So we've been doing this for a long time. And he was an amazing lyrics writer even as a kid.
Wow.
And I think I mean, I can't really speak for him, but like from what I understand, I think he's very inspired by other lyricists, like as I'm inspired by guitar players and composers and stuff. He for sure has got some favorite lyricists of his, and
so he's probably like a Neil Peart from Rush.
A little bit like that, yeah.
Like that, yeah.
And I mean I know that he's interested in science and science fiction, and it's been a little bit maybe like more of a superficial interest in like new agey stuff that you can blend with sci-fi and find some nice intersections.
Well, we want to live forever, don't we?
Exactly. Yeah. But so he's written all of the lyrics, and usually when we do an album, we just write a bunch of songs, and we record vocal guides where I usually make up some kind of lyric, something in English, typically, at least for the clean parts, so he can have something to build his thing off from, to give him an idea also what kind of sounds I would prefer. Yes. There's this song called Numenon and Phenomenon, where the chorus lyrics, what the fuck is it? Oh, that's where ideas will never cease to roam.
Follow.
Yes, and the demo was, oh, I wanna take you to the Rolling Stones.
Yes, you have to make up these things just to capture it.
Yeah, it doesn't have any a meaning, but it's words, and Rolling Stones. For that kind of phrase, you want to have something that feels good in your mouth, because it's like the kind of vowel you sing something with.
It's very important for lyrics.
Really, it can make or break the chorus, because like an Stones, if it would have been like E, a tinier vowel,
or too many consonants, that sounds terrible. Yeah.
Yes. So and he's so amazing, because he takes what I did, and he pours all of this feeling and meaning and vibe into his lyrics, but he's using all of the sounds that I use, and sometimes he manages to get super close without using my words.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. But for this trilogy, I suggested the topic of writing about the technological singularity. I was waiting for luggage at the Frankfurt airport back in 2012, and there were two businessmen also waiting for their bags, and they were talking about things like the technological singularity, and they were talking about Bill Gates and stuff, and I can't really remember exactly what they said, but they were, and I was eavesdropping, and I was like, that's really interesting. Yeah, so okay, so intelligence is gonna reach a point where humans are gonna be, left in the dust,
Yeah.
and we cannot possibly predict what's gonna happen.
That's the whole AI thing, and with people like Ray Kurzweil and stuff, predicting that we basically going to be morphing into machines. Basically, I mean, we're already wearing half a lot of mechanical components. If you lose a limb, or they want to 3D print organs soon, so we're right on our way, I think.
Yes, it's a very it's a very special time to be alive, I suppose.
Absolutely, we're on the threshold.
Mm-hmm.
No, what came to mind is when I read through the lyrics, and obviously also with the music, obviously the music takes you into a world. And it struck me the other day when I had the lyric booklet in my hands, I thought, man, this would be maybe sometime you bring out with an LP a little sci-fi novel. It's almost,
yeah,
it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I've said to Henrik at times that you should consider writing something. Like, you got so many cool ideas, and maybe someday he will.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, he's really good at it. You should consider that, definitely. Per, are you going to play Hanover soon? End of this year? Don't have the exact.
Yes.
Oh, hold on a second. There you go. Can you see?
Well, it blurs it for me, but it looks like a ticket. Oh, there we go. Stehplatz.
Stehplatz. Yeah, well,
Stehplatz.
This is Hanover. Let me just catch the date. 23 September. And I am so happy that you guys are playing Germany. When I first discovered you, I was so frustrated. I was constantly looking. Even I regularly go to festivals, and I was like, why don't they book SCAR SYMMETRY? Another band that I have never heard of them playing here in Germany is Pagan's Mind. And I just go,
yeah.
When? So it was amazing. My son is 16. He's a great fan of yours. And so I immediately got 2 tickets. So we'll be seeing you there.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I mean,
Great.
we have been touring way too little in the past bunch of years. So
yes.
the many places have been severely neglected. I can only offer my apologies.
Yeah, but definitely, I think Germany is, just from my gut feeling, it should be such a great market for you guys in the style of music that you're doing.
Yes, and now when we're releasing a new album, now I have access to all the like statistics, Spotify and stuff, so I can see where we are streaming, and like the 3 big places for us is the US is the biggest.
Wow.
Then it's Sweden and Germany.
Amazing. Hey, the US.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that immediately, huh?
Probably not. It's not super common for like bands to make it big in the US and Europe, and
exactly.
But I mean, it's relative. We're still a reasonably small band, even if some people might have a different impression.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're definitely gonna try to get out there more, and I think like for like logistical reasons, we're gonna focus a lot on especially Germany, like north of Northern Europe and
yes.
Scandinavia. Have that as a focus because it's so much easier to travel and play there, and we can go to Germany with our full production.
Exactly, and
we bring everything, our own drum kit, everything, so we can have the perfect setup.
especially these days with the exploding costs, it's crazy. You have to make it worthwhile. Huh?
Yeah, indeed.
Per, it's been wonderful chatting.
Indeed. Thank you for all the patience, man.
No worries.
Much appreciated.
I've also got a bit of time on my hands today, so it's fine. Yeah, once again, thank you for the music. Thank you for making the time for us here on Into the Pit. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Hanover. Yeah, well, relatively soon. It's going to be like this, and then it's there. And
for sure,
looking forward to seeing you guys on stage.
Yeah, man. Take care and give your son say hi for me.
I will, definitely.
All right. Cheers, man.
See you then. Cheers.
Bye.